Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terri Morrow and I'm here with Catherine Haleko. Say hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week we have 2 old sitcom pilots to discuss, plus an episode of The West Wing. But first, 2 more episodes of Season 2 of One Day at a Time, which happily was just renewed for Season 3, although coming sometime in 2019. So I think we're going to have a little gap.
Oh, really?
For now, for now we got some episodes to talk about. What did you think of these 2? The titles were...
To Zer with Love.
Yes.
And... Roots.
There you go. So,
right?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So, these were fairly straight down the middle, enjoyable sitcom episodes for the most part.
Yes. Rita Moreno, again, like, stealing every scene and getting every major laugh out of me.
Yes.
Like, pretty much every time.
I enjoyed when they worked like a line from West Side Story in there somewhere, right? I like to be in America, I think she said.
Yes, and I also think, I don't know if it was in these 2, but it was, at some point she said, "Hey, you guys," just like on the Electric Company.
Yes. They have a lot to work with.
Yes.
But yes, she was adorable as always in all of it.
In fine form.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So...
I thought that the sort of like who's on first routine that they were doing with the pronouns was kind of goofy. I mean, I get it that like it is confusing and it's something that people have trouble with, but I don't know, it wasn't really landing for me.
Yeah, that seemed like the sort of thing that was maybe better on paper than it actually was in execution.
Yeah.
But, I did think it was cute the way they did it, where she had a crush on the one really cute girl, and then the other somewhat more awkward girl was having the same, doing the same routine as she was to her. And so they finally,
sweet.
That was very nice. And how sometimes just somebody being available and interested is really what you're looking for. You can switch very quickly from one person to another if somebody turns out to be actually available and interested.
Yes.
So that was cute. And what else? Oh, she has her little thing with is he a paramedic or fireman? The guy at the hospital.
Or ambulance. Yeah, paramedic, ambulance, I think.
Probably
ambulance.
Paramedic.
Driver.
Yeah.
He really is extremely tall. I mean, they make note of that at the beginning, but every time I see him, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And she is fairly short. Yeah. I mean, everybody looks tall to me, but when she stands next to him, she looks extremely short.
Yes. But I see it as he looks extremely tall.
There you go.
But then the second one, Roots, which tackled, sort of citizenship and voting, and I thought they handled that one really well. It was one of my preferred, like, issue-heavy episodes. Just the way that, Elena made herself vulnerable to say, like, she's scared that something could happen to her grandmother, and the same way that Lydia was scared of losing her identity as a Cuban person by becoming a citizen, and I thought it was well done.
Yeah, I thought they came at it from... I like it when they come at things from all different angles.
Yeah.
And instead of just a black and white sort of, we're right and everybody who thinks differently is wrong. So, yeah, that was interestingly done, and how she was trying to avoid it in every possible way without having to actually say why.
And that reminds me...
She could have said she wasn't registered to vote.
Yeah, I mean, there was ways around it.
That would have worked for one time.
Right. That reminds me, for some reason, it has nothing to do with anything, but my favorite line, I think, happened in the previous one, where she just bursts out of her room from behind the curtain and says, I live behind a curtain. Because they're like, did you hear everything we just said? I live behind a curtain. Which is something you have to wonder about all the time. Like, of course, she must be able to hear what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
It's just fabric, you guys.
That's right. Not soundproofed. No. Yeah.
Which is like a sitcom thing that always... And they still do it on this show, but like people 10 feet away from each other that can't actually hear, allegedly, what the other person is saying. I don't think so.
Seems unlikely.
Pretty sure everyone can hear you.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the whole thing? There was that whole movie subplot with them going to the movies and bringing the food.
Well, I've certainly never been to a movie where they patrol and try to find scofflaws during the actual showing of the movie.
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing to maybe check your bag when you're on your way in, but trying to rat you out when you're seated and the movie's actually playing.
Because that's just going to interrupt everybody's movie-going experience. Yeah, I think they would try to check you. But you ever smuggled food into the movie theater?
I have smuggled drinks because they don't have the drink I want, so they don't have my...
Well, then it's their fault.
Yeah, that's my argument. They don't have my iced tea, and they don't have my sparkling water, so I'm going to BYO, you know?
There you go.
Yeah, but that was cute.
Yeah.
Comic relief that didn't come from Schneider, which is the usual strategy.
Yeah. We have to get Nicole watching this thing to assess the Canadian content.
Yeah, he did a whole put on my thinking toque, and then there was more to it, and then they made a funny joke about, you know, if you're living in this country, speak English.
Yeah. So 2 more down. And looking forward to more. And something we got more of this week was The West Wing. We had put it off a little bit because we're staying a week behind the West Wing Weekly podcast because we don't trust them to let us know when they're going to stop. So this week we caught up with Privateers, and which they did last week. So we were able to listen to their podcast on it, which was just chock full of guests.
It really was.
Ethel Beavers.
I know. Loved it.
And Allison Janney and
Jeff Perry, the actor Jeff Perry.
Yes, Jeff Perry.
Although that was, I found to be a weird interview because they really barely talked about his experience filming The West Wing.
Right.
Like most of the times when they have a guest person on, they talk about how they got the job, which they did with him, but then they talk a lot about their memory of filming it. And in this case, I felt like they didn't really do much of that. It was just kind of a Josh, Molina, and Jeff Perry, like, love fest. And then, all right, talk to you later, bye. It's like, oh, it's over. Yeah. Okay, well, fine.
Well, I think he did talk a little bit about working with Richard Schiff and that they had some theater experience in common or knew about each other. But yeah, he wasn't saying all that much. But there's so many people in this podcast. There's the Daughters of the American Revolution lady also.
And Ethel Beavers and Allison Janney. So,
yes, which is possibly why it was, almost 2 hours?
It was really long.
It's a lengthy podcast. Some of us schedule in our podcast listening and figure, it's usually about 50 minutes, and then it's like half over when it hits that point. I mean, this was a good episode, but not necessarily one that would merit an extended such an extended episode, but it was enjoyable enough, though.
I liked about the episode was what Joshua Molina pointed out, that it was one of the sort of day in the life episodes of the West Wing. A lot of stuff was going on. It wasn't necessarily all part of a bigger plot that, oftentimes you get those building block type things, and this wasn't really that. It was just, I guess I don't know that for sure because I haven't seen what comes after. But it felt more freestanding.
Yes.
And as they pointed out in the podcast, it it started with the president and the first lady waking up. It ended with them going to bed. So it was like, here's your day. From sun up to sundown.
Yeah, I always like Abby episodes. She's very good, and I like the chemistry between the First Lady and the President. It's always fun listening to them either banter or discuss or whatever it is that they do. And I thought this was a good introduction to the job for Amy.
Yes.
As long as she doesn't try to hang something on the wall.
Right. I like Mary Louise Parker scenes, especially when they're not with Josh, when she's with the First Lady or even with other people. She's just so funny, the way that she delivers her lines and just...
She is.
I don't know. She's funny. So.
Very distinct way of doing them. So, all the scenes with her and CJ and Will and... I'm just going to call her Ethel Beavers, but
Marion
Coatsworth
Marblehead
Hayes.
I actually didn't realize it was Ethel Beavers until I started listening to her to her interview, and I did get to it before they did on the interview. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I think this might be Ethel Beavers, and then they said it eventually.
Well, it's. When I saw her, I thought, I know her from somewhere. I'm going to look, and I looked her up on IMDb, and it's like, of course.
Old friend.
Of course. She looks older in that West Wing episode than she did on the Parks and Recreation, which was later.
Well, they wanted to make her look very patrician or something in the West Wing, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, she was she sounds like
that was... Yes, she does. She does. That was an enjoyable interview.
And she talked about how she liked having the tall male secretary.
Yes, that's funny. That was good. That was a good scene, and it's interesting that they brought up the Chuckles scene, because, it does. Yeah, it is reminiscent of that.
Although I didn't understand why CJ couldn't just excuse herself and leave the room.
She probably should have done that,
But I mean, once she had brought in the other two and introduced them, then she could have been like, oh, excuse me, I gotta go. And just ran out of the room.
To go double over laughing in the hallway. Perhaps she was thinking, laughing too hard to think straight. But the one weird thing was, this whole little Donna stalker plot where she had to follow these people around. I wasn't that crazy about it at all. But it never really resolved. Did she just follow them around in that awkward way for the entire evening? And at some point, didn't they call a Secret Service agent over and say, this unhinged person is harassing us.
She's following us to the bar.
What an impossible job to ask somebody to do.
Yes, I thought that was odd.
That could have been cut for more of some other scene.
Yeah, for more of the Jeff Perry stuff. I loved the intrigue of all that. The CSI of it all. You knew. You knew all along.
Yeah, he seemed kind of be a skunk at the beginning, and then he seemed like he was going to be a good guy, and then no, still a skunk. And speaking of skunks, Zoe's French boyfriend is showing himself to be even more of a bad choice. Walking around the White House.
I know. Finding the entrances
under the influence
to the White House.
Yeah, come on, Zoe. Really?
Although I also agreed with what they were saying on the Western Weekly podcast about Charlie feeling a little stalkery. And that's not okay anymore.
Yeah. I can't remember how I felt about it at the time. I think I thought it was kind of cute, but watching it now, it's like
a little cringe. Even though you love Charlie, which I do,
and sympathize with him, and because really feel that Zoe needs to lose the French guy.
If nothing else, she has to ditch him. Even if she doesn't get back together with Charlie, she really has to lose Jean-Paul.
Yeah, Jean-Paul is not worthy of her. So have we touched on all of the many, many plots in this episode?
I think we have. Let's just check. Yeah. I was just checking the Wikipedia summary, which is quite terse. So,
yes.
In fact, it doesn't even mention the whole Jeff Perry plotline.
Really?
Yeah. So that's just bad.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just
Wikipedia. That infallible source. When
I was reading about this episode, I was like, Jeff Perry was in it. I don't remember what he did. And then when I saw some mention of the whistleblower plot, I'm like, oh, yeah. But I don't think I remembered it. It was not.
The whole episode in general.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen similar things. But I do agree with what they were saying on the podcast about how is it that Abby babysat for Amy?
I know, because isn't Amy the same age or maybe even younger than their oldest daughter?
Yeah, it seemed odd. It seemed not right. But it made me wonder why they threw that line in there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I get they're trying to establish that they have a long-standing relationship, but we
at different times
that.
It has not seemed that way.
Yeah, but I feel like we kind of knew that,
Yeah?
Just from when they were drinking together, that one.
Yeah, I mean, I got the impression that Abby would have known her through sort of the feminist circles, through the jobs that Amy had. She would have known about her, as opposed to having a personal, outside of the political sphere relationship.
Right. It would have made more sense if, you used to sleep over at my house with my daughter or something. That would have made a little more sense if they wanted to give us a personal...
Yeah. I don't know. I think that it could have just been interesting. Yes. Anyway, so that is it for this week's West Wing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We interrupt this podcast to remind you to please consider the free Radio Public app for all your Parenting Roundabout listening needs. If you listen to our podcast on the app, we'll get paid a little for each listen and more if you listen a lot.
It's a great way to financially support our podcast without having to actually spend, money. Now on to our challenge round.
This week I challenged you to watch 2 sitcom pilots that I enjoyed back in the day. And each of them is 22 episodes long. Each of them would make a very nice little watch for us to fill in when when the West Wing weekly takes its break and we're not watching West Wing episodes, or when this season of One Day at a Time comes to an end. So I thought we would watch the pilot of each of them and decide which one we wanted to watch all 22 episodes of. The 2 pilots were Trophy Wife, starring Bradley Whitford and a very impressive supporting cast, and Go On, starring Matthew Perry and a very impressive supporting cast. So which one, what did you think of them? Did you like them both? Did you like one more than the other?
I liked them both. I think I liked Trophy Wife a tiny bit better.
Conveniently the free one.
Yeah, conveniently. That had nothing to do with it. I enjoyed both of them. I guess I enjoyed the characters and the cast quite a bit on Trophy Wife. Mm-hmm. I thought Malin Ackerman was great as said Trophy Wife.
The Trophy Wife only in the sense of being a younger woman married to an older guy, but
right.
I think a Trophy Wife is supposed to be more of like somebody who has some accomplishments of her own. I don't think of it as just a younger woman.
I don't know. I think it's arm candy type of thing.
Is it?
Who knows?
I don't know. I'll have to look into that phrase as we watch it more. But I think it was. I remember hearing on the writers podcast. I never think of the name of it.
I know which one you mean. But...
The Nerdist writers. Yeah. Anyway, the one of the women who created that series did in fact herself marry an older guy, and so she sort of based it on that. And I think that the use of the word Trophy Wife was sort of like as a joke, but I think it's a bad title for the series. I think it gives the wrong impression entirely.
Well, and it's sort of it's like, look how glamorous, my trophy wife life is,
Yeah.
So.
I love that early scene where they're in the hospital and then his family just kind of comes at them from all directions and she's trying to figure out, are you married?
Right.
You're married to her? No, you're married to all these kids, and Bert is picking up stuff on the floor.
Don't eat that. And there it goes right in his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, the adult cast on this is really, and there's Natalie Morales from Parks and Rec. Marcia Gay Harden playing the first wife and Michaela Watkins playing the second wife. But the two young actors who play the boys, both the little kid who's just adorable
Bert,
and then Warren, he's fantastic too in a completely different way. The girl is kind of forgettable, and so forgettable that in fact that actress is only on the pilot. It's a different actress in the second episode.
Ooh, ouch.
Who's also not anywhere near as good as the actors playing the brothers, just because they each have, Warren's got that incredible, intense weirdness sort of going for him, and Bert is just a big ball of adorable. So, very fun, found family sort of thing.
Yeah, and I like the way that, each ex-wife was different and sort of stereotypical, but they played them well and, made them enjoyable to watch.
Yes, definitely.
You had the uptight one and you had the flighty one.
That's right. And then you have the third one.
We're not sure what kind of one she is.
Nice ego boost for Bradley Whitford to imagine that he could get all three of those women, but he's just, women just fall in his lap. What can he do?
So I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed Go On also. That is the one with Matthew Perry and Laura Benanti, who looks like Courtney Cox but isn't Courtney Cox. I know she's a very accomplished stage actress.
Yes,
but she plays the leader of the therapy group that
whose experience is Weight Watchers.
He gets her to admit very early on.
Yes. And then sort of a motley crew of support group members with Julie White is in that.
Which one is she? Is she the angry one?
She's yes.
She's awesome.
I mean, she has quite a lot of stage experience also, but she was in, I think it was Grace Under Fire years and years ago. Did you ever watch that sitcom? With
right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, she was the friend in that. It's the first place I saw her, and she's very good in this. And she's very funny. And the kid who plays Owen. Did you ever watch the show Everybody Hates Chris?
No, but I know of it.
He was Chris in that as a much younger kid. So it's kind of fun seeing him now grown up and sort of from underneath his load of sorrow, making these little cracks,
right?
March sadness and such,
and how the two of them kind of connect when no one else has been able to do that. I enjoyed that too. It's definitely a different premise than
they're sort of both about found families, but one is you suddenly have all these relatives, and the other is sort of on the outside of that. But lots of quirky.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I enjoy a quirky show for sure.
Yeah. A little more melancholy than Trophy Wife, I think, just by the nature of its subject.
I would watch either one. But if we want to start with the free one,
let's start with the free one.
The free one and the slightly more light.
Yes,
one,
yes,
right?
I think so. That's a good idea.
Which is Trophy.
Yes, and then if we later at a later time, if we need something else to fill in, we always have Go On in our back pocket. Okay, well, we
definitely that was a show that was given its title before people thought too much about search engine optimization.
That's right.
It's not good.
It is not good. It is not good at all. So I think they could have just called it The Matthew Perry show. I don't know if this was his first one after, well, let's see, there was Studio 60. I don't know what the sequence of Matthew Perry projects post-Friends were, because there was also one called Mr. Sunshine. But I think that came after this one. We will watch that sometime, because Allison Janney is in it having just a ball playing a character who's kind of nuts. So, but it lasted less than 22 episodes. So it does not work for our little experiment here. So I'm not sure when we're going to start this. It depends on when we have an opening, but we will go ahead and watch more of The Trophy Wife then. Yeah. That will be fun. There's some episodes coming up that I think you will really relate to, in terms of, well, there's one about social media. I can't remember which episode it is, but and the damage a father can do in a very short period of time. So I remember that one as being fun. All right. So next week, we are going to watch episodes 5 and 6 of season 2 of One Day at a Time. And then we're going to watch the season 4 West Wing episode Angel Maintenance. And you have a challenge for me.
Yes. And it's a big challenge because it's a book.
So I have it here, right next to my podcasting station. I went so far as to get it from the library. Have I cracked it yet? I have not.
So this is a book that came up. We were talking, I mentioned this in, I think, a speed round or something, that we were talking about celebrities taking over doing things like interviewing other celebrities.
Yes.
And I recalled this book, which a friend had recommended to me. It's called But Enough About Me, A Jersey Girl's Unlikely Adventures Among the Absurdly Famous. So it's this writer, Jan C. Dunn, who developed a specialty of doing celebrity profiles. And she wrote this memoir about it that is so much fun to read. She does name some names in it. But it is now 12 years old, so it doesn't get into, for example, social media, and some of the stars, they may not be as absurdly famous at the moment as they were at the time, but it's still a lot of fun to read, and she has a great voice. So I think you will enjoy it, because
sounds fun.
You and I have both done little bits of this here and there, interviewing people.
Is it going to give me celebrity interview PTSD? Because
it might. To your
my two experiences were not happy. Billy Ray Cyrus and Sherry Belafonte Harper were my two, and it was enough to say, you know what, this is not for me.
Well, I think you will enjoy this because of your past experiences, and even if listeners out there have not had such experiences, it is still a great deal of fun to read.
Yes, it looks like. So that is what we will be doing for next week. And for this week, that's going to be it for our round 2. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terri.
Goodbye, everybody.